right? You know, like
take an hour to resonate on that, and we'll be back in 1 hour. Like, one more time. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but that we aren't going to keep talking like you didn't just drop some Nobel Prize level articulation. Like, are you kidding me? Are you joking right now? What is this? Like,
We would like to acknowledge that we are on stolen Yuggera and Turrbal lands, and as settlers of colour, we reflect upon the damaging legacy of colonisation. Always was, always will be. This is going to be a special episode of Creative Tales. You just mentioned, it's like, oh, are we going to chat? And it's like, no, we're not going to chat this time. Yeah. We're going to hold that thought because you're about to meet a local artist that many of us cannot believe that you have not met. I wanted to have the meeting just to be here in this space. So that's what's going to happen. I'm not going to be in this conversation. How's your initial feeling?
I love it. I love the idea. I love getting to hang out in any way.
Yeah.
Because we're due for a good hang, and I know
right.
the chats will come.
Yeah.
I love this as a way to meet Huda.
Yeah.
And I'm also just excited to have a human conversation with her as well. Like, it's a triple whammy. We're out here.
Fantastic. Amazing. All right. I'm going to jump out and grab my phone and film her walking in.
Okay. Proper.
And make yourself.
Hello. I want to do like I just realized I was about to be like, but then I was like, I don't know.
there's a barrier.
Should I be speaking on the mic?
Oh, sure. How are you?
It's nice to meet you.
You too.
Finally. I feel like we must have seen each other out and about somewhere.
It has to have happened.
But it's lovely to actually connect,
Me
and
too.
I'm so excited for a good conversation.
Me too. This is so cute. I was kind of nervous. I was like, this does feel like an artist date. What should I wear?
An artist date. That's a great idea in general. That's like a cool show.
It felt like an artist date.
Yeah.
I'm like, artists that have never met each other are meeting for the first time. Like, yay. Love it here.
That's actually like, I'm not trying to riff out ideas and like new IP, but it is a great idea for a show of like two artists, and then at the end it'd be like swipe right on a collab or not, or you know what I mean? Like, I think we've got different visions created. Like, you know, you'd see it.
I don't see it aligning.
Yes.
But thank you so much.
Totally. Good luck with the LP.
Damn, you
Love
got
that
this.
for you. Fun. Good times.
Love it. Are we rolling already?
We are rolling already.
Oh, amazing.
This is it.
Oh. You like me to start?
If you'd like.
No, you can start.
Okay. My name's Roman. I go by Roman MC. I'm an improvisational performance artist, I guess is the most general term, but a freestyle rapper who also does some other things. Yeah.
Yay. Hi, I'm Huda, and I go by Huda The Goddess, and I am a spoken word poet and improvised poet. And I'm like known for being a slammer, so yeah, that's me.
The cerebral just lit up with so much dopamine and excitement already. How cool.
No. It's not often that you meet another improvised artist, you know? Like, I feel like as a poet, it already feels like an isolated place to be like, I'm going to make it up and we'll see if it's good or not. Thumbs up.
100%. I'm curious to ask, like, it feels like I can't know what you do now without having context of what inspired you to be doing the now. Like, how did you find your way into this? Did it find you? What was the catalyzing moment of I'm going to show up and actually do it?
Yo, very good. I mean, I used to call myself the accidental poet, and I still am. Because like in like uni/college, I was like a master of ceremony. And you know, like when you're young, everybody's like, oh, you're really loud. We should put you in behind the mic and you can run this random event you don't know nothing about. And I'm like, sure. I'm an extrovert, so now I'm the person holding the mic. Great, we love this. And I feel like my origin villain story started with my like grade 7 teacher forcing me to do like the wrap up, you know, like speech about our, you know, like finishing primary school and what that was. And then I was like, oh, this is very terrifying, but I actually really enjoy being able to communicate with people on in a big group. And like growing up as a kid who was like illiterate, growing up. Like I couldn't read or write.
Wow.
And then like
Wow.
learning English and being like, I'm so fascinated with being understood and being clear and concise. And since I can't write, like the pen feels foreign to me. And like it's a heavy thing to hold because it was never gifted to me. You know what? It was in my place. Right. So I was like, okay, well, I can master like, you know, the gift of the gab. Like I'm gonna learn to speak really well that even if you see this rubbish writing, it's not gonna matter because you already felt something when I spoke to you. So I was like, okay, cool, linguistics, what can I pick up? How can I interact with my mother who comes from a very different culture and language to her is very different and connect with her as somebody who's now growing up here. So it was a compilation of things that I think made me land up on the stage and like meeting Anissa Nandala when I was like 20 at an event I was emceeing. And she was like, oh, you're a great poet. And that was the first time in my life that somebody had coded that.
Wow.
Before that, it was like, I was the girl who spoke really well. Like, you're so articulate. Wow. Like, you know, and she was the first person to be like, no, you're a poet. And I was like, but I don't like limericks or whatever. Like, I don't think what I'm doing is poetry. And she goes, no, it is. And I was like, and that's my origin story.
Already so prolifically articulated, like so the pen was heavy to hold. Like, ooh, bars! Like we need like a little NPC sampler. Like, incredible! Wow. Okay. And do you mind me asking your mom? You mentioned culture. What's the cultural?
So I'm Sudanese.
Sudanese.
I was born in Sudan, raised in Cairo, Egypt, and we are linguistically Arab and like African by heritage. And
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
What an intersection.
Your turn.
Of dope. Oh man.
Tell me everything.
It's so funny. We have so many like similar, like so many resonances in even our origin stories. Because I also was emceeing random events during uni. Like that was such a thing. And from that space, I remember just being like, I know I can do this. Other people seem scared to do it, and they do love a good. I won't say like a diverse character, but you know they want to spice up some of these uni events in Southeast Queensland.
Add a little color.
Add a little spice. And I was doing that at the same time. Honestly, for me, if I'm talking about music, I probably can't separate it from my origin story. Going into like religion and church, and I became my parents were very like strong intellectual atheists growing up, and so long story short, around high school, as my parents were separating, our mum and my siblings, we kind of staggered our way into religion through various, you know, events here and there. It just became the new thing, sort of Pentecostal Hillsong sort of church.
Okay.
And in that, I remember getting really kind of fanatical and being like, I got to learn every way to communicate the gospel. So I was getting into film, music, preaching, all those things at the same time. And then at a certain point, I realized pretty much in like my second year of university, I was studying at film school and I hadn't done any music or hip hop. I'd done some beatboxing and I was a fan of music, but not a creator. And then around my second year of university, I had this like, you know, nothing hugely profound. I just became rational. That's a joke. I'm just, you know, no offense intended. I actually don't know if you have any religious belief either, so I have full respect for it.
I love it.
Yeah, I have respect for the human, less so for the ideologies. But it is a thing of basically in that place of absolute like devastation and an identity crisis that is indescribable, really. I knew for the first time I was someone who didn't know anything. And from that place, I discovered improvised freestyle rap, because before that I was writing for the Lord. And I had this
It was
like
a great purpose.
this great driver of the pen. Whereas it was almost like, well, what now? What is there to say? Because I'd fallen in love with the craft of hip hop, but I had no message anymore, or so I thought. And I mean, so I think I should say, because I still don't have an intentional message, but I do love the curiosity that you can spread through the hook of creative energy and that sort of thing. So that's sort of my very convoluted origin story. I'm super underslept. I'm just going to like flag that. And it both makes me less articulate, but I think it opens up the cerebral in a way. Do you find that with performing, you kind of can go through any state and it has different faces depending on what your impairment that day might be?
Oh, absolutely. I'm neurodivergent. So yeah, sometimes I'm like super hyperactive and have all the energy in the world. And that story that comes from the hyperactive, vigilant, very like in the room is so different when I'm like sat.
Okay.
And I'm just like...
You mean sat or sad?
No, just sat. Like I'm just chilling.
Okay.
I'm just here.
Yes.
kind of dissociating a little bit.
Yeah.
But like I'm here, you know?
Yeah.
It always drives a different story. But what an origin story. Why
Yeah.
hip hop?
Why hip hop? Because that's what the kids were listening to. And I was like, I'm going to save these kids. I was literally a kid myself,
You're like, I'm going to, yeah.
you know? And then I was like, wait a second, I don't know anything. And then from that place, it was fun to be like, I don't know anything. I got no song to sing, but what do I have to bring? And then slowly but surely find a way into what I am now passionate about, which is that, vulnerable existential meditation space that improvisation kind of can dance around and connect people with, which is what I can already tell is I can tell you cook it up. I can already tell. So I'm super excited.
What gave you that idea, Roman?
You have the gravitas. You already know you got the gravitas. You have the pathos.
I hope that I meet these expectations. But it's funny when you say that. I taught a poetry workshop, like a writing workshop the other day, and I find there's always a difference between the person who's trying to find themselves using the pen always writes about how they don't know who they are. And it's always a story of like, I'm this and then that. I'm nothing. And then I'm just like, yeah, that's always the introduction to using art as your own self-therapy. It always starts with, I really love the thing that it is, but I don't know what to put inside this thing. Like, I like this glass, but I don't know if I want water or juice, but I have the glass just in case. You know what I mean? I decide to pour something into it. So it's interesting that art always starts as that. Like, I'm nothing and everything at the same time.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think for me, I was scared for a while to have a message. And I, in some ways, still feel I'm not scared, but like it's the sense of the world is so rich with story, mystery, and nuance. I come to art with a sense of I'm just going to try and bring some keys and some doors and see what keys fit in what doors and what doors fit other keys that are here that I didn't know about and what doors might be here that I just brought keys that have never opened anything before. That's a really maybe convoluted analogy, but like I love that it can surprise the spirit of a person, even the person creating it. I don't know. This is like the fun space to now be talking about, like as an improviser. I had this, a few friends were kicking on the other day and they were all quite rowdy. Shout outs to Amy and the crew. They were quite rowdy on the corner, throwing down like philosophical arts chat. And they asked me a really good question and I'm just going to pose it to you generally and you answer it with whatever comes to mind. Where do you think ideas come from?
Oh, that's a big ass question. Where do I think ideas come from? I don't know if I think there is like this destination that drives all. Like sometimes for me, curiosity is a big thing. And like the complex nature of I have one question that becomes 6 questions, that becomes 10 questions. And then I think I've answered it, but within one answer, I have actually just created more questions. So there is never like a final point. So my art comes from like my desire to understand. Like as people feel like I'm giving them an answer and I'm like, I'm actually trying to figure out the answer as I'm creating the art. So this idea that I'm going to give you an address so you can do the same thing you think I'm at is not real. Like I actually just live in the middle of a bunch of rooms and I kind of pop in and go, oh, I could take that. That could look cool. So I don't know for me art has a place. I think art can be created from taking from multiple places. It can be a compilation. It can be from my culture and my experiences with my mom. It can be from me, but it can also be something that has no relation to me at all, that I'm curious by and want to look deeply into. So I think sometimes trying to find its location is its limitation.
Just, Sila, just meditate on that for a minute. Fire, bars, once again. So awesomely said. And I think of it the same way in a sense of like question and answer. I think even when you are maybe technically confident enough with a craft, even if your approach is questioning, ultimately in essence, that at a proficient or a confident, we'll just say, level, can for other people, like one person's question can be another person's answer, so to speak.
Come on.
Which is interesting because I think I'm the same. Like since that moment I talked about that existential turning point, I just ask questions, I think, and am passionate about questions. I think questions are infinitely more romantic than an answer.
Oh,
You know?
put that on a shirt. I need it tomorrow. I need it right now.
But I heard it in what you're expressing.
Oh, yes.
You know, and I can tell that fuels there. That curiosity is like, it's always going to, I don't know, connect to that higher place or the love supreme or whatever you want to say. It's like the fabric of it is curiosity and question rather than answer.
Oh my God, yeah. Because it feels like and this is going to sound so extreme to people, but like completion to me feels like death.
Woo, woo.
You know what I mean? So
Level
it's like,
up.
So the desire to find the end feels so anticlimactic. Because if it's the end, there's nothing there to find. It's just the end.
Yeah.
You don't have anywhere else to rotate unless you go backwards, right? So you're then having to do the turnaround to find everything else you've missed along the process, which is
Yes.
why the cliche line of like enjoying the journey is truly important, because that's where the question comes in. That's where the curiosity happens. That's where memories and histories and moments and connections and the romance of things is the actions and the doing of. It is not the final destination of being in love. It is how you create the love that makes it romantic and expressive and enjoyable. So it's like I'm not curious about the end because there's so much to be curious about right now in the moment, to in the motion. And if that helps you get to an end point that creates some sense of peace, then you're missing the multidimension of the world. Because even if you understand the pain you feel now, pain is inevitable. It's going to happen again to a different level from the same source, even from the same person. So what's the end in that? You know?
All right, first of all, we need to acknowledge the bars that were just set. Like, I don't know. Shouts to Dylan making this available for free, but that should be like pay per listen. That was fire. Thank you so much. I'm just trying to get into the habit more of like explicitly acknowledging gratitude in my life.
Yes.
And this is such a joyous moment already. You know,
Likewise.
this conversation is so nourishing and stimulating. I can feel all these like neural pathways lighting up. Like, you're like me. Another.
Oh my God.
But I also wanted to say it's interesting because how you phrase it is so true. And I also think even the end is always going to be limited to our own perception when people say like the destination versus the journey, or even like if you think of coming to the end of a road, like a cul-de-sac, you might be at the end of the road in that, trying not to sound all like Jordan Peterson, cryptic and nonsensical, but like you might be at the end of the road, but there's a sort of like, you are applying your own presupposition to what the end means versus if you had powerful technology that could show you that the end of the road is actually on this atomic level, forever infinite. And there's no end to the road. It just, you know, your sense of the end will always just be based on your perception, whereas an end can also just be the beginning of something else, or the road is actually defined not by its distance, but by its substance or something else. Like,
Sometimes the end is a pause.
yes.
And you don't know that.
Yes. Yeah.
Because you're satisfied with what you got. So you define that to be the end. It's like, oh, cool. Well, I've actually stopped learning at this moment from this particular thing. It's like, maybe that's your pause. Because I feel like our whole life is a repetition of the similar experiences to different intensities to be able to drive something you missed the first time it came around.
100%.
You know?
Donnie Darko comes to mind as a real simple like way to think about it for me. I remember, have you seen Donnie Darko, the
No,
film?
I haven't.
Well,
No.
well, the education is
Drop
two
the
ways
knowledge.
today.
I'm here. Come on.
It's a great film. It's a cult classic. Jake Gyllenhaal, just, a really cool film. And this is just my experience. So there'll be different, fans of the film who are like, well, technically what he's saying is wrong. But my experience of it was I watched it and I thought, this is the most art house film I've seen to date. And then you watch it 2 years later and you're like, oh my God, it's actually the most complex and detailed sci-fi that has ever existed. And then you watch it 3 years later and you're like, oh, this is a study of grief. And it's like, that is the lessons of life in just one example, which is that. Even, have you ever listened back to something that you've performed or recorded and then heard it with like 5 years of experience and either been shook positively, not negatively, but maybe like a sense of like, oh, I thought I knew what that meant at the time, but now I
triggered myself the other day. I was doing a radio interview and I was listening to the vinyl that I had created a year ago. And it's only been a year.
Ooh.
But in that year, my perspective, because there were poems in there about home. And the last year, my home has completely collapsed in a very different way. Collapsed in a bigger way. Okay. Collapsed in a way that it was no longer tangible for me to attempt to place its broken pieces together. I'm just an audience to its break. So like what I had written about that story was me centering and being able to relate to this girl that I had met on the border of Sudan. And then listening to the poem now, I would have written it so differently. And as much as that was very real at that moment, I was like, damn, I need to do another version of this. I need to be able to sit down and talk about this little girl again and talk about her in a way that actually distances myself from the story and gives you who she is. Because often I have to attach myself to the story for it to be relatable, because you as an audience cannot imagine a stranger unless it's a stranger you're looking at right now. So the I has to be in every story that I tell. That is the easiest way for me to connect with people at times. So definitely, I'm always triggered by I trigger myself. And I'm like, oh, why did I have to say that? Why was that necessary? But also because I don't remember my bars. Like when I get off stage, it's done. It just, it kind of vanishes, so.
I feel like there's so much to respond to, and I'm going to respond to like the simplest, most like easy, quick curiosity of mine from hearing you say that, because there's a whole story there that we can get into, but maybe for our own sanity. Do you always perform improvised, or is it ever also written, or is it every time improvised? Like, what's your approach to that?
To be honest with you, at first, I didn't think I was improvising. I just thought I was too lazy to sit down and write. And I was like, I don't have the brain capacity to sit down and write a poem and then edit it and then make sure that I know what a comma is still.
Wow.
I actually don't know. So, like, y'all gonna get what you get. And 2 thumbs up.
Just straight practicality.
Like, here's what it is, and we're gonna exist. I feel like I only started calling it improvising when somebody else called it improvising. For me, it was like, oh, I walked into a space and I've sat in it and I've interacted with a bunch of strangers, and now I feel the need to tell this story. So I'm going to get up on stage and share this story with you. But I also recently have discovered that I'm attempting to write one poem through different improvisations on stage. So like lines will repeat themselves until they have a place in a poem that feels like their home.
Wow.
Until
how
then,
cool.
they kind of just like, scattered up in the air. And I'm like, oh, okay, I like this. But I don't know its placement yet because I'm not a traditional writer. So therefore, I'm not going to sit down and be like, oh, like my most recent line is I'm trying to write a love collection. And the only line I have stuck with has been, I'm a fatherless daughter with mommy issues. And I don't know what that means yet for me. Like it felt like I was just able to label my identity in a way people haven't before. Because before I was raised by a single mom who didn't have a dad. Right? And whether that's going to change in the next poem or not, I don't know. But like, yeah, I would say like, unless somebody explicitly tells me I would like for you to write a poem and memorize it, then I'm not doing it. Like, I'm just not doing it. And I've done it twice. I've done it for ABC, and then I did it for a tour show that I did. And even within that, I was like, if you want me to be authentic, as much as I love the story time and time again, the way that I would tell it would start to sound like recitation rather than a performance.
Yes.
So they always leave a little room for me to freestyle in that. So I'd say like 98% of my performances are like whatever I feel like on the day. Yeah.
And when I'm sorry to just keep questioning.
No,
I don't want to be here like full interview, but I'm so curious,
No, it's all good.
It's like when you say recitation versus performance, what are the elements that make something feel like performance for you? What is the nature of your performance?
I feel like when I feel, it's very much guided by my feeling. I feel like when I feel like I'm in it so much that my body is present in the poem in a way that I'm not conscious of. Like for me, a recitation is a soothing, calm voice and me telling you a story that requires stillness and calmness from you. This is my recitation voice. This is me taking you on a journey and telling you a story. My performance voice is energetic and a lot more lively and a lot more present and has a little bit more texture because I'm not planning ahead. I feel like when I'm reading, it's like I'm reading somebody else's book and I don't know how they sound. So I give them this like really soft tone just to make sure that I don't, misrepresent the story. So I don't know I know what it feels like, but I'm not sure what I can put like dot points to the difference really. Yeah.
An extension question to that. I'm gonna just speak after this rather than
because I'm like I have questions.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
hello.
I don't want to be the question hog. But what because I'm curious about this within my like performance, and I think any kind of improvised performance or creative performance, art inherently in general, cross medium, cross mode. What is the role of vulnerability, and what's your relationship like with vulnerability in art or maybe in general?
I really don't think I would be where I am professionally if I was just based on skill of like lyricism. I am where I am because vulnerability is the catalyst to connection, and it's the catalyst to inspiring people to feel something. Because if I don't feel anything and it's a generic like, oh, 1, 2, here's the line, then I can't perform that. Because a performance really is sometimes the replay or the reinvestigation of that thing and how it makes you feel.
Yeah.
Right? So if I don't have a feeling that inspired that, I'm always reciting. So vulnerability is, I learned it before I had learned what poetry was to make me a poet. I had to learn like poetry is the rawest I ever am. And I used to say like, and I still say my slogan is, my job is to have a conversation with a stranger's soul and you have to let me in. And I'm not. Your name, I never might know. Like you might see me and go home and it will never be a thing. You might never remember my name. But how I make you feel in this moment is the currency we exchanged. And that's worth a lot to me. And that can only be if I have a vulnerable thing to tell. And I say vulnerability is key because my poetry is for me first. It's entirely selfish in its existence. And it then by effect serves you. Because if it doesn't serve me, then it actually has no utility for you. Because it doesn't come from anywhere. You know? So, yeah.
I'm just shook at like the constant painting of beautiful canvases that your sentence to sentence hit rate is. Like, I don't know if it's in any way consciously intentional or if it's just become the muscle, but it is like you speak good. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it is a work of art just hearing you talk. Genuinely. And I feel like I'm saying that with some extra interest in language and creative use of language and expressive use of language in verbalization of ideas. Like, not just taking the intangible and then capturing it and condensing it down into sound bites that can make sense to another, but actually giving it with so much flavor. Like, what an extra gift. Literally, I feel like I'm getting a gift to be like, all this flavor? Why?
For free?
Yeah, again, for free. Hashtag get it now. Hashtag paywall coming.
It costs some shit. Hello? Wake it up. You know, I will say, because I have questions for you too. Because I've seen you perform. I've seen videos of you, and every time I want to see you perform, I have a show at exactly the same time.
Oh, Lord.
And I'm angered. Because I was like, you gotta go to a show. Y'all gotta perform together. And I was like, it will happen.
I just can't believe it hasn't.
It's insane.
I'm astounded at what it will be. And now, only more so. Like, already my closest artistic friends who I really trust the taste of have been like, man, the day y'all link, it's just gonna be a big thing. Like,
I've heard it. People like, yo, we cannot wait. The day y'all get on stage together, it's over. And I was like, let's just meet first.
Yeah.
Let's have a conversation.
We switched it up on him.
You know.
Friendship first, month. No,
Yeah. Catch that.
Just playing.
But I will say, like, I've been asked that recently, like, oh, where does the way that I speak come from? And I'm like, you guys have to understand that I didn't have the vocab growing up. I grew up with Arabic being my first language, and I'm multilingual in that. So, like, translating my thoughts into English is very difficult because I don't have the vocab. So I started school at a weird time, and I was kind of like, I'm going to run through. And I've always been good at the big things before the little things. So it was like, I don't have the big word, but I know what it feels like, or it looks like, or it tastes like, or it smells like. So I'm going to tell you that, and hopefully my image is so clear that you can guess what I'm trying to say.
Wow.
And that's poetry.
Wow.
Essentially.
Yeah.
Is that like, you don't need the big word. You don't need to have an extensive vocabulary that far exceeds anybody else's normal literature. Like, blah.
Totally.
That's not real. Like, that's not the thing that connects with people. It's knowing, like, the smell of your mother's food after a long day from school and dropping your bag that's been weighing on your shoulders from the bus stop. And you drop it like you've been carrying the globe on you. You know,
Absolutely.
You know that feeling. You know that feeling better than anybody else.
Yes.
You know, so that's where the poem is. So your turn. improvisation. What's the relationship? Why did you feel the need to be vulnerable in this way? Because there's so many other ways to be vulnerable. Why art? Why on stage? Why all of that?
Why art is, I think I just loved it, is the simple answer. I'm not even going to try be hidden at this frequency. I was like, how should I start? I'm just going to try talk in my current level of cognition and my cognition. I just loved it, I think. I remember I loved it when I had really strong ideologies and like, Christian ideology. And I loved it even more so afterwards because art, again, I think there was like a parallel between a question being more poetic than an answer. The mystery of life is way more poetic than a defined answer. And art was sort of the closest, I'm not sure what the word is, like the closest manifestation of that inaction. It's like just getting to create.
And he says he don't got bars. Rubbish.
Well, see, I mean, this is just going to be us the whole day. Like, you ruined with it. Come on.
Crazy.
Need like a content warning just for quality. Warning, not the trash that you're used to. No, I'm just playing.
This is way better.
It is, yeah. It was just art because I think for ways that I'm still unpacking, like literally a lifelong romance, music is just special. I really think of it as like a magic that we got used to. And it's math and wiggly air. And someone can do that. And that's just like sonic, like instrumental music, you could say is math and wiggly air. Then you add linguistics and conceptualization and storytelling and identity blending together, knowing you by knowing me, knowing me by knowing you. And it's like, come on now.
That was the most delicious meal that's ever been cooked for me. That was crazy. Stop it.
Truly though, truly. It's like no matter what mood I'm in, no matter what crisis has descended upon the current chapter, music is forever this like, showing the religious trauma, but the North Star, so to speak. It's like always just this most mysterious, beautiful golden deer running ahead through the forest. And you're like, I like that. I need more of that. And the more I honor that curiosity, the more it seems to move other people. So I'm like, yeah, we all like it. It's just like we all want connection. It's just like we all want to witness story and share our story, So I think for me, art, it's probably the most like non-direct answer, but art for that reason, if that makes sense.
That is so direct.
Yeah, cool.
Because it's like art is the therapy, art is the exploration, art is the lens, art is the point of view, art is the healing, it's the therapist, it's the conversation, it's the community. It encompasses everything that you want and what are curious about in the world that is beautiful. And it is that bar of like, it is the magic we forgot. Screamed into the mic. Stop playing with me.
I was doing a school workshop the other day, and I think it was like year 5 kids, and they're so sweet, some of these young kids, and their grasp of like adult or abstract concepts, like I should say adult level abstraction, is actually so awesome to see. Example being, members of Bullhorn were answering like, what do you like about music? Or like, what is it? Why do you like music? And I remember everyone was like, oh, it allows people to, come together, and all the answers that they trusted the young kids to understand. And I was like, what? Everyone said the same kind of answer. Let me just try to go a different way with it and see. And these kids were just so cool. I said something like, I was like, for me to answer, I need you guys to use your imagination. I tried to get my Mr. Rogers on, like we're going to grow an idea in the garden of our mind. And I was like, imagine lightning. Has everyone seen lightning? And they were like, oh, yeah. I was like, imagine you were seeing lightning and no one ever told you what lightning was. That's music. And there was 2 kids that went, like, bars! Like, but I felt, I may be projecting, but I feel like they got it. And I think it's the wonder of life /art /music /language and story. It's there in all of us at any age, in any culture. There's this real recognize real, curiosity recognize curiosity. you know?
And people understand that concept because we understand thunder. We've seen it. And that language of being able to put it in a way that's like, oh, you don't know community yet in the way that I know community because you're a kid, even though you indulge in it every day and it is your support system. But what you do know is thunder. You know a video game. You know playtime. You know these things. These are the language in which I can connect with you, a concept that might feel so big and so distant from you. And I feel like I always say of great value for me of intelligence is the capacity to connect with a kid who you assume knows less than you.
Yeah.
They just don't know the words to say how much they know. That's it.
Yeah.
But they know because they're living the same world you're living in. And their experiences are as intense and are. Because like, what is a great adult artist? Is a kid who has seen some things adults think they didn't see. That's what a great artist is. You've had this pain and complexity in times in life where people thought you were coloring in and watching movies and you're like, damn, I was actually thinking about life and my mom and dad in their relationship.
Yeah.
And you just thought I was cool. And like, there is so much more space and room for an adult who's traumatized, but not for that same kid. And then it's like, but that's how the artist is birthed, really. It's through the curiosity of unpacking the pain to be able to create something beautiful. You know?
I'm trying not to laugh out of joy. I want to be here like, ha ha ha! Like, we cooking, y'all. Like,
We in the kitchen.
we are in the kitchen. The flavors are coming. You know,
It
it's
smells,
there.
It smells ethnic.
It's giving ethy. It's giving
Fusion.
cerebral exploration beyond your cultural dominant narrative.
It's a lot more than you can get at your local restaurants. So sorry.
So good.
I love. So what's the relationship with improvisation? So like, I feel like music traditionally has there's a structure.
Yes.
And when people think of like rap
Yes.
and emceeing, you know, they think about it as much as an experience, a cultural experience. They do think about the lyricism and the writing of the rap and all of this stuff. So why did you go this direction that it became your signature?
I think I was always a language nerd. I always talk about that when I'm like talking with young kids. I was like a nerd of English in school. Like I was the little English subject prize. Like, yeah, new assignment. Wow. What do we get to do? You know, that kind of attitude. But genuinely, I think before I could fully articulate it, I really did find language, much like music, to be, it's like magic that you can we have agreed upon sounds that I can make a certain sound. And if I say peace, I can paint an image or a concept on the canvas of the mind of people. And it's like,
I love artists.
it's crazy. It's the craziest thing. And we just get so used to it. And then we dare just be like, my name's Roman. I like rap. When you can be like, well, my parents call me Roman, but I feel like a walking paradox of that. And you can like, you know, you can describe and you can illustrate the world and make yourself known and paint the dimensions of your soul with sound. It's insane. Like this experience is insane. And it, you know, back in the day, it was like, and then one day someone was like, stick. And it was like, oh, game changed. And now we have the Mona Lisa.
Language.
And rocket science. And we're looking at like trans-dimensional warp drives because we could articulate to each other. So that love of language basically, that coincided with, I think I was watching a documentary once on freestyle. It was Freestyle, The Art of Rhyme. It's a great documentary on freestyle rap. And I genuinely was like, this exists? Like, I was so, like, I grew up with parents, my family's from Seychelles. So I was born in Australia, but grew up with, you know, Creole music from Seychelles, but also like Bob Dylan, Tracy Chapman, singer-songwriter, music around the house, Bob Marley always. And I didn't grow up as a hip hop head as such. Shout outs to Uncle Ralph burning us those little mixtapes on the side.
Come on.
You know, but outside of that, I didn't understand the culture of hip hop, the mechanics of the craft. I didn't really grow up with it. And then I saw this documentary on freestyle. I was already aware of hip hop at that time, but I didn't really understand freestyle. And in there, they were talking about the tradition and how it emerged out of the tradition of, you know, all of, you know, the African-American musical history, but jazz specifically, they talked about that improvisational wavelength of if you create from a place of anger, you heal yourself. And in that moment where I encountered that, I had a lot to heal. I had this giant existential fracture that had like robbed me of, you know, like it's so beautiful.
It's so visceral.
But it really was that. And I remember being like, it was literally like right in the nick of time. Someone was like, oh, here's a way you can heal yourself. And I had already carried this lesson from being in church and understanding like pride goeth before the fall. So I was like kind of at war with my pride still. I was like, just because the ideology has changed don't mean anything different between us, pride. Like I was aware that it was still not my friend as such. And so I was like, freestyle rap, because one, you get to explore and heal. And two, if you fumble in front of others, you humble yourself. It's a win-win. So I'm either going to nail it and develop my craft or humble my character and develop personally. And that's what I still talk about that today with young kids, about a win-win kind of growth mindset in that way. But it truly is like, that's what got me into it. Just because I was like, I want to try to express in this way because I just am passionate about it as a vehicle, but I also want to fail. I want to feel that thing that happens when others go, and you see them judge you for a stumble or a fumble and go, oh, I didn't die. I'm not going to get arrested. Like, it's okay. And if anything, the more I fumbled, the better I got. The more I fumbled, the more arsenal I developed with my language choices, my musical choices. I could go, I don't even know what's coming now. How did I break it down? Sound, and just learn to pivot and leverage mistakes into opportunities like all great instrumentalists do. And then from that, I just started to just fall in love with the art of like working it out and watching other people go like, the mistake, oh no, oh my God, it's the best part of the art. Like there's something really hyped about seeing people transform mistakes into like kintsugi. Oh. You know, the gold starts shining in the cracks and the fractures of something. And that's, I live for that.
People love the save.
Yeah.
Like you put this glass right now and you drop it. Everybody's waiting for you to see if you're going to catch it. And there's a part of them that at the beginning, they're like, oh, he's going to drop it. But at some point, they're like, no, he's going to get it. We got to hype him up so we can get it. This is the one. And it feels so much more involved when you got it. Because everyone's watching for you to hold it. And that moment is like, damn, I almost lost it.
That Spider-Man music, that Spider-Man soundtrack plays for all of us. That you're like,
oh, shit.
But everyone feels it like we're all the richer for it and a new possibility. I'm so hyped just having this conversation, I must say. It's a good day to be alive. You know what I'm saying? I think about this. This is just left field maybe, but what do you think of this is all I'm going to prompt it with.
Cool.
We get to exist in one of the, a peaceful society, Western privilege, like the 1% of history in terms of, even with the challenges navigated. I say that with only the awareness that I have of my advantages and disadvantages. But like within a free and possibility-rich life, you then also are tapped into the vertical axis of creativity and music and art and all that three-dimensional existence that comes with that. How much gratitude do you feel in that journey? Or is it something that you come back to or have to remind yourself to feel?
Oh, every time I stray away from the pen and attempt that something else beyond this thing that I have can solve it, I'm humbled and reminded. Where like my art is my process of dissection. It is my humanity revived, right? Like
take an hour to resonate on that, and we'll be back in 1 hour. Like one more time. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but that we aren't going to keep talking like you didn't just drop some Nobel Prize level articulation. Like, are you kidding me? Are you joking right now? What is this? Like, come on. Sorry, please continue. I'm just such a fan immediately.
Totally likewise. Oh my God. This is filling my cup in so many ways. It's unbelievable. This is, okay. It is this also is a prime example, right? Like the opportunity to find a stranger and find a synergy and a moment of balance, even if every aspect of our life is out of balance. This very moment that has been decided for us, we have an equilibrium. And our equilibrium is this devotion and love and being willing to be lost in something with no map. I'm willing to get lost in art for the rest of my life because I will never feel fully lost. I will feel like I am discovering and unpacking and unraveling. And it's such a, my gratitude for art is I say art for me is selfish because it healed me and it consistently does. It consistently humbles me and it consistently reminds me of how much I don't know. And I'm so okay with that. I say my favorite place to go to is the ocean because there are moments in life which I need to remember that I am so small and insignificant. And I'm so okay with that. That like being special is the capacity to exist and be aware of the things that happen around you, not just to you.
Whew.
Right? And I'm humbled. Like art humbles me in more ways, and my imposter syndrome humbles me further because I'm like, being a poet is a title you gave me to be able to put me somewhere that makes you comfortable to understand who I am. That is not a title that I need to have. This will always be my language pocket. This will always be how I exist. I will always talk in colors and sounds and feelings because that's what makes sense to me in this world. In a world in which things have to be black and white, I choose to be at the rainbow. I choose to visit often, and sometimes I do get lost and I do lose color, but my gratitude is damn, like I am reminded of how important my senses are, and they are the greatest wonder I've ever been given. Because I have sampled poverty and I have ingested possibility as a meal, but art has never failed me. And it's always filled my cup, regardless of whether I'm getting paid, not get paid. I'm in a room full of people that I don't know that may not get it. I'm good. Like it does what it needs to do for me every time, every single time. So it is a blessing I cannot count. So, yeah.
All right. We at risk of cliche, but we ain't just gonna act like we are not going. Dylan knows it too. We're feeling it. Somebody 3 suburbs away just went, oh, greatness. Something great just passed through me. The sound waves will carry on for another generation. My God. That was so profound. And you know what? Speaking of gratitude and how you articulated that so beautifully, I want to ask a question that just came to mind hearing you there. I think, and I'm sure others have talked about this, but I would imagine, I can only assume, if the world is in any way sane, you have received praise for your craft and your command of language. But what I think is that, so if language is the substance, the essence of what you do is your values, is your perceptions, the things you notice, which I think has something to do with the intangible, inarticulatable spirit that just is you, right? Otherwise, those things wouldn't stand out to you and make their way into your art. Where do you think you get that from? Where do you think you get your values from? Like, where do you get your sense of what is important from to inform what words take priority over other words that you could say?
Honestly, I don't know if I have, that's a very beautiful and such a good question. I feel like I don't have a conscious processing of that, right? Like when I first started doing poetry, I remember and I tell the story whenever there's a chance because it really paints the narrative of my relationship with the pen, right? Okay. Like I was doing poetry for a couple years, and then I did a gig at a venue, and there was an elder in the room. Oof. And she is a professional public speaker. Like went to the world championship for public speaking. Like speaking is her thing, right? And after I'd performed, she like spoke to me. She gave me like the compliment, the grace, and she goes, "You call this thing poetry, but my question to you is why is it that you speak? What's the need for it? Like why do you feel this obligation?" She's like, "I sense an obligation within you. Figure that out."
Whoa.
And I never met her again, at all. She just can't even remember her name. Damn. And she left me with this like immense question of like, why do I speak? And I went through a journey of every like cycle of my life of like deep, like me taking the pen and using the tip of it to open my chest in half, live inside my own self and become an observer of the experiences I feel internally. That's what I do with my pen is I'm in myself. To experience and that, like understand the world that I live in and what I embody. And at first it was like, oh, I speak for the people who cannot, for the mute. I speak for the ones that have their voices gone. And it became this like, activist voice. And then I was like, I actually don't want to do that because I don't want to deprive you of the opportunity to find the frequency of finding your own voice. I cannot be one for all because then that would assume that I'm all. And I think I'm kind of nothing. So I don't want that. So you can have it. Tag, you're it. Take your own voice and say something that you want to say. So for me, like value is the examination of the things that make me feel something and me placing them somewhere. Like if I care so much about a stranger's smile, what does that mean for me? If I care so much about making sure people don't bury their own pain, where does that come from? If I want people to be present, what does that mean? And also like separating my ego from my purpose has been a really interesting journey, because it's like when you have the prestigious clap, everyone's like, oh my God, you're so good. I'm like, yeah. Oh, you connect with me. And I'm like, I love that. But also I am not end all be all. I inspire a flicker of light. And if you don't keep it up, it will be dimmed. It's your job to keep you up. And I can only inspire a frequency because I'm within that frequency. So we're all under this big light that I would love for you to keep up, because you deserve it without my guidance, without my art. You deserve to have that for you. So sometimes the morality comes from, I am everyone. You are me. Your frequency has a large impact on who I am. This room is magic because you are magic and you are magic and I'm magic in it. It won't be as powerful and as intense and as dense if I was the only person that was shining. It would actually just be a light in the corner of the room that barely anyone notices and thinks it's a fault. It doesn't make it special. And I think othering and making it need to be that one person is special, therefore they are worthy of all the glory.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't want that. I'm good.
But where does this wisdom come from, Huda? This is my point. Is it like...
I don't know. I think I want to figure things out. I'm curious. I think you said it. I'm curious. Like there has to be more to it. Like I'm writing a love story and I can write a love story. Like I've seen a fine man across the room and be like, damn, the kids would be fire. You know what I'm saying? I've built a delusional ass story. I've been in love. I've held hands way too long until my hands started sweat. I've done it all. Okay? I have love stories to tell. But for some reason, I can't tell those stories because they don't feel like the pure expression of love.
Wow.
They don't feel like the complete story. I can write those. I can write about my first love and my first heartbreak, but that's not where love was first introduced to me. It wasn't. It was introduced to me when I used to be 4 years old and I used to lay behind my grandmother on bed and she used to tell me stories about where she was working and the things she'd done. Love was holding my uncle's hand and going to get desserts and hiding it from my mom and pretending like we didn't go get. That was where love started for me. But I haven't figured out how to tell those stories yet. So I think wisdom is curiosity and the examining of the questions. That's what feels wise to people, because often it's like, we're often made to be the victims of our own lives. So we just kind of like, and you pick up whatever you feel like you need to and drop everything else because you need to survive. And curiosity means you have to give yourself permission to live so you can be aware, and not so aware that you're drowning, but aware enough that you are alive and breathing and can take the pit stops you need. I feel so like, when people are like, oh, you're like wise. I'm like, oh, no shit. I'm trying though. Like I'll get there at some point.
I think let's be reasonable and let's be fair. You are one of the most prolific orators. Because it's either the articulation of the ideas or the ideas. I would argue it's both. But both of those things are, I would just call it objectively. I'm not here to hear about opinions. I don't care if you're a miner from Darwin who's like, oh, it didn't interest me, mate. I genuinely think it is objectively profound what you just shared. And so, I don't even know, it feels like as gracious as we get to just exist in life and stars exploded and now we're all here, as gracious as that process is, that kind of use of language is, it feels like. Because the Pokemon that you're catching have not been seen before in the way that you're articulating it, and the passion and the values and the fire that is in your words. I can see what the hype is about. I already felt it before we met, just seeing the impact on other people who are like, bro, when y'all link up, I was like, damn, we're dealing with like a special vehicle for this creative energy.
I'm so flattered.
No, genuinely, it's really profound. And I'm so cynical. I'm so tired. I'm so jaded. And everyone's always like, man, you're one of the happiest rappers I've ever heard. I'm like, ha, 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 ha. Because it's, I rap and I express so much, I think, just to remind myself. But like, when I say this is cup filling for me, it's like, this is genuinely like, not just cup filling, this is cup overflowing. What you just shared, and I'm sorry to be like articulately fanning and not really offering the same journey or safari, you know.
You're offering everything.
It feels like walking into, and I'm going to sound like the foodie that I am here, but like the most fire buffet you've ever seen.
Talk to me.
And someone being like, if your mind is a plate going, what you going to eat? And you're like, what? We have to just fill up what? We can only go once? That's how my mind felt when you were sharing. I was like, I'm going to be listening back to this on replay just to catch. It's the Donnie Darko. Every sentence was Donnie Darko.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. I don't even mean it as a compliment. I need you to understand how serious I am.
I'm just spitting facts right now to you.
But I can tell that you are in a place of, you know, humble recognition of what's cooking. You know, I can see you pursuing, pulling the thread of possibility, potential, you know, and it's self-sustaining. So in a way, it's selfish, but it's also selfless that it's so graciously generous to everyone who gets to partake in it.
Thank you.
So it's so beautiful.
And
Thank you for existing.
I'm so, like, this has been incredible. If only my other dates would go this well.
It's a ride-on collab.
You know what I'm saying? But no, like, when I first saw your videos, I was like sound for me is super important. And even though like I'm not a music, I can't sing to save my life. I break both these glasses right now if I try to hit a note. Just I can't. It's bad. It's not good. But when I heard you, I was like, the sound. I used to say like maybe because I'm neurodivergent, like sound is a very important thing for me. And I've heard a lot of really lyrically good poets that don't know how to translate that into a sound that fills up a room. And like every time I've seen you perform, I'm like, the capacity to have this voice that translates and fills a room up, that it's that people that want it to connect with something else that they think is great, that's magic. So when people witness something so good, they're like, I need this now as it exists, but I need it amplified because I now know the frequency and the power that it holds in a room. And that's what I mean when I say one magic thing doesn't work by itself, right? Like, it's like, it's better when you know, oh my God, like imagine a lineup of all this shit that makes me feel something so good that fills up a room by simply just existing in this most like vulnerable and very like delicate, because that's what vulnerability is the delicacy and the breakable aspect of it. And you being able to hand out your delicacy and this fragile glass of like, I really like this shit, man. Like, and I enjoy it so much that I'm going to share it with you, even if I don't know if you have the right hands to hold it. Even if there's a risk that I might drop it. Even though I love it, I'm going to drop it.
Yeah.
And I use that moment of possible drop to humble me, that further reignites the love I have with it. Come on now. I ain't the only person that's magic. So... yeah.
I have a question that just came to mind hearing you articulate that. And like speaking of sounds and sonics filling up a room, for you, I initially was going to ask music, but in general, what is a moment or a piece of art or a moment of art that has rocked you? It's something in your top 5. Doesn't have to be number 1 because that can be hard to, you know, specify, but something that comes to mind in like your all-time art that has rocked you moments.
You know what? It wasn't actually even really an art specifically. It was an interview of Maya Angelou.
Okay. So we're going to be friends. We're going to be friends for life is what you're saying.
We locked in.
Yeah, always.
I just saw an interview of her and something about her body language and the way that she spoke. I was like, and I just sat and YouTube kept replaying videos of her in interviews. And it wasn't a particular bar or a particular statement. It was the way she sat in the bars in the statement.
Yes.
That had me like, I think I'm in love.
The nature of the thing.
Because she was not telling you. She was inviting you into the library of her existence. And you were walking through, glazing over the lines that she had written. And you were in like there's a magic in someone who speaks and it feels like they've grabbed you and put you in the middle of the story they're telling you. And she does that so beautifully. And so beautifully. Like, I think the page is a suffocating place that is too small for her words. Because what adds to it is how she says it, what she means by it. She leaves enough room for you to be like, I've written a couple lines, but there is space so that you can finish it because there is more to the statement.
For
Single-handedly,
Ooh.
a redefining moment for like sound for me. I was like, this is ancestral.
yeah, and
Like, you know? I was like,
ancestral.
ugh.
Yeah, the
She-
big bang is in her smirk when she kind of chuckles.
The light was so bright. I was like, rah.
Yeah.
This is different.
Yeah. I love how she will laugh in the midst of like the most prolific idea exploration ever. Just a little chuckle because it is funny. It is so orchestrally grand and so fleetingly missable at the same time. And she'll be like, you know, like I'm just figuring it out, but I haven't figured it out, but we're figuring it out right now. I don't know why I stumbled over figuring it out. So I was like, figuring.
I feel like I watched the video of her. She's talking about soulmates, and she said like you usually don't end up with your soulmate, and I like that stuck with me for so long.
Okay.
Because this idea of like finding your other, and it being your other half, and that person being your point of completion, took me to this whole thing of like, well, I don't really believe in completion in the traditional sense. So maybe I've met my soulmate, and they've given me what I've needed to take from them, and they need to now go and exist.
Yeah.
And it completely changed my perspective on romance and what I want from people and what they want. I want them to give me back. Like, I never want to turn people into robbers and then spend the rest of my life resenting them for the things that I needed them to take so I can feel validated. And that's the relationship with love. So I was like, oh, there's a different perspective to soulmates?
Yeah.
Let's look into the gems. The profound nature in which she speaks, the elegance, the body language, the consciousness, the investment into this. Unmatched. Yeah. Your turn.
It's crazy. This is just a side note, and it's probably something I would normally say in just like a private conversation, but it's the nature of the space, I guess. Maya Angelou, like, super, super crazily reminds me of my mom who passed away. So I'm using past tense. She passed away. But like, it's one of those things where, one, my mom was insane. Like, just world leader / a hang. She could just, she would just cook it up.
Multi-dimensional.
One like kitchen hang till 3 a.m. and you're just there like, word, like just illuminating. And when I watch, like literally when I miss my mom, I'll watch some like my clips because I'm like, whoa, just like kindred spirits, And then I find that here and there. And every now and then I meet people that make me go like, it is like poetic injustice that you will never get to just throw down a chat with my mom because you would have been like, oh, it's like she's in the room almost. Like she was so like that, but you actually elicit that same resonance or frequency. Is that a weird thing to say? You remind me of my mom, but like genuinely, there's such a strength and curiosity at the same time. It's really cool. It's like it's a curiosity about all the things that might be in the garden, but a strength in knowing like I am so definitely exploring this garden. Like no one can stop me from the liberation that is exploring the garden whilst I don't know the names of what I see. It's really cool. It's so cool. Man.
My Angelou reminds me of my grandmother, so.
Really? Yeah. Maybe it's just,
It's an ancestral Black woman thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
She's
Well,
there.
we got Sudanic slavery in our Creole family history, so maybe it's specific to that Sudanic time.
It's giving lineage.
It's giving lineage.
It's giving family.
Intergenerational.
I'm just saying.
Yeah. No,
Wow.
It's crazy. It's crazy. So cool. You asked, what about me for greatest art?
Yeah, what's changed? What's been like, this is it? And music is so big, too, as a world.
The one that comes to mind, which close friends of mine have heard me rave about this closer to the date of when it happened. And it literally felt like a miracle had happened. And I know this sounds like I'm just hyping up this gig, but I saw Jacob Collier at QPAC. This is a few years ago. Dylan, by any chance, did you go to that gig?
I think I would have loved to, but...
Oh, I just needed to know if that, like, did you go to that?
Sorry, no.
I could tell you hadn't just from how you were listening, so I wanted to check, just so I could look for the nod of like, oh yeah. What it was, Huda, is...
He said my name, it's very serious.
I hadn't planned to go, and it was like a Friday at 4:30. I was in the office. I was in like work environment, cultural discourse, and I was like, oh, Jacob Collier. I liked his I liked his music. I wasn't like a huge fan in terms of the groove and the vibe of it. But I was like, I know there's gonna be lush harmonies, so I'm gonna go. I brought a non-musician friend with me. He was like, yeah, bro, I'll run it with you. Let's check it out. We just went in zero expectations. And when I say it went from within a song, I was like, oh, okay, this is gonna be the best gig I've ever seen. Like the band where it was a chorus of mastery. Like it was. And then the Jacob Collier of lighting was on the AV, like some Italian award-winning, like savant AV person. The drum solo was rigged up with the lighting. It was all kinds of crazy as an overall experience. But I didn't expect three things. I didn't expect him to be an actual savant, which I knew he was like kind of, spectrum level genius with some music. I didn't expect that. I didn't expect him to have the spirit of Bob Marley, which was like genuinely trying to connect and heal and ground and reintroduce people to themselves.
Oh.
Like there was really that feeling. There was a moment where he got everyone to like whistle and then like chorus directed the whistling. So it created this feeling like a flock of birds was circling in the atmosphere. Anyway, it just got to a profound place where people were just bursting into tears throughout QPAC, just in the middle of silences or songs.
Oh my God.
And it reached a point where I remember thinking, like, I was so awestruck and so adrenaline pumped and so much dopamine and oxytocin and everything was happening. And I remember thinking, I might have to step outside because this is so beautiful, I might go insane. Genuinely. Like, I was like, this is hitting a level of beauty I don't know if I can perceive and not be...
Like, I'm going to lose it.
I might lose it in some way. And then afterwards, when I thought it was just me, I saw Mark Perrick. Shout outs to Mark Perrick, one of the greatest bassists in Australia / the world. And he's such a humble cat. And he's such a G. And he's very quiet. He's a word economist. And I saw him and we walked up to each other. And he had that Vince Vaughn in Wedding Crashers energy where he was like, there's not much to say. And we just hugged. And then later we dialogued about how important it was and how special the gig was. And I was like, it kind of felt like our whole lives. Now, this is going to be the most extreme exaggeration, but I promise you it felt like this. It feels like this now. It felt like our whole lives we had just been crawling. And somehow in that space, somewhere between the harmonies, the resonance, the sentiment, the values, the human X factor higher spirit of music, it's like all of a sudden from crawling, everyone just stood up.
Oh.
And as we left, we slowly went back and crawled. But we remembered what it was to stand
up.
And everyone at that gig knows this. I explained this to my best friend, Nick, and we were at a restaurant like 2 weeks later. He was like, brother, shut up. Really? Really? And there was like a couple near us and they kind of went and they waved at us. And we were like, sorry for being loud. He's also ethnic. And we get loud. We get passionate.
A little rowdy, yeah.
We enjoy our life. Excuse us.
Sorry.
But sorry. So good. But this couple was there like, no. It's like, we were there. And then my friend Nick was like, and? Was it, are the legends true? And they literally said, I felt so validated. This chick was like, it was like a miracle. Yeah. And so I stand by it as the most special gig. And it taught me a lot about myself. It really affirmed everything to me of, oh, this is the most important thing to me. Something in this. I don't even know what this really means, but it made me go, I will be involved with music as a priority for the rest of my life. It changed my identity and the identity I gave myself permission to associate because I had all my migrant hustle. Yes, father, I have a employment, I had all these identities that were competing. And then I went, oh no, that's who I am. This is who I am. And that's why I feel how I feel. Yeah. And so that's why it's the most special thing.
Come on.
I gotta go.
I'm not a wordsmith. What?
We just started plugging.
What a beautiful experience to have.
It was crazy.
To be able to sit in your purpose while being an audience member.
Yeah.
To be like, this shit right here reminded me of everything as to why I am art and art is me. And it'll be a thing that oh my God. Yeah. Visceral. Oh my God, yes.
Incredible. I stand by it. I think music, and now I can't hear moving music and not remember that place on that night. Like I still remember it. It feels like holding onto a hot air balloon that is going to lift you up in that moment of tension when you're like, I think I'm about to leave the ground. This is so, if you really can perceive music or art even, it's that, you know, it's like walking into the 16th chapel, and just being like, what
That's
is
incredible.
like, what? Your brain just kind of doesn't have the framework for it.
To compute.
You know?
It's too big. It's too big to compute.
Yeah.
I feel like I was there. That's crazy. Like, that is incredible. What an experience to have.
Yeah. And now I feel lucky because I get to experience it on stage with like Life on Earth doing improvisations. And in the midst of that musical flow state, that like chasing of the Love Supreme, or, you know, I always think about the Love Supreme because like Coltrane was literally trying to talk to God on that album, using music and the language of math and harmony. And like, it was like some science. When you really think about it, it's almost science fiction. And that's what it feels like. We always use the language opening portals for Life on Earth gigs because it literally feels like, on one hand, you're just going to a gig and that's it. And you are doing that. But if you look at it with attention, this whole vertical axis opens up, and larger than the sum of the parts, creative energy fills the space, and connection and story and recognition and strangers becoming friends and friends becoming strangers almost, because you think you know music and then things happen and you're like, wait, what is this? Like seeing a tiger just grow a triangular tail out of nowhere. You're like, wait, is that a
Hello?
like, I thought I knew what this was. And the wonder of it. Yeah.
When reality shows you its multi-dimension through art, when you're like, I never thought about it that way.
Yeah.
I think that sometimes the greatest compliment artists can receive is I've never thought about it that way.
Yeah.
Because you've been able to introduce something to me in a way that I couldn't even think was possible. Didn't think was a reality. But it's like to open a portal, you have to have, peeked in there and seen its complexities and its the shapes and what exists within that portal.
Can I ask you on that note, have you been called a genius before? If you're being honest, have fans or people who have been moved? It feels like a deposition. Has anyone throughout history,
Can I have a lawyer?
having been moved by your art, used the term genius to describe yourself?
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So on that, I've been reflecting on this because it's happened to me too, and I remember being like,
Relax.
I'm the son of Madge. I know I'm just a silly old, I'm just a silly little.
Yeah.
I can't even.
No.
I just can't. But what I've thought of, I read the quote, I forget who said it, but a master can hit a target no one else can hit. A genius can hit a target no one else can see.
I gotta go. Pack it up. Pack it up. Just pack it up.
And I think if you, the listener at home, have resonated with the words of Huda tonight, genuinely,
I need this soundbite immediately.
it's because you're in the presence of genius. And I say that not even as a compliment, mind you, but I simply want to acknowledge that I can tell you're looking at something that not necessarily everyone is able to see, but we can see you aiming at it and hitting it, and we feel that greatness. That's what that feeling is, and that's what you felt when listening to this podcast. Facilitated by the great Dylan, Kaiju Creative. Let's go.
Yeah. I don't, you know what? Like I have a very interesting love with like language in the sense of words of affirmation is my love language. So this right now is feeding all of this, like strangers becoming friends and that friend meeting you at your rawest. Because meeting me at my art is meeting my pure self with my persona put to the side, with my performance put to the side. You're meeting my essence first before you're meeting Huda, right? That introduction is it as raw as it can get. So like to think about like me and art and like, I've always said the most important affirmation people can give me is the way that I make them feel. But then when then it's tied to like this thing being bigger than me, and I'm just kind of like, I always felt like the wondering kid. Like people will be like, oh, like, have you seen that? And I'm like, oh, I've actually been curious about that thing on the wall the whole time. I'm not sure what it is yet. And until I figure it out, then I'll look at the obvious thing all of us have seen. Like, why are we all staring at this thing? We all know what it is. We all know what it does. And it feels safe to always look at the thing you can see. So is it like, I get it. It's about safety. You want to feel safe. But I feel bored. I'm curious over there. And I want to unpack there. And that for me is that art is the investigation of other layers and being able to have a conversation. Like if I could talk to people that I'm meeting now the way I want to talk to people, the conversation would sound so different. If I could be like, hey, so tell me about the last time you genuinely answered, how are you truthfully?
Yeah. Oh.
I want to know that.
Like, for real?
You know what I mean? Like, but I can't say that. I have to say, how are you?
Yeah.
And accept the polite, structured answer because that's the normal.
Yes. Oh,
You know? And
I resonate so hard.
And I've had a rule with my friends where, like, if we're close, please do not feel the need to bend the truth to accommodate for feelings you don't know I have. Just answer the question. If you're not good, you're not good. Because I'm going to tell you I'm tired and I'm hungry and it's been a long day. And I'm going to give you the truth. That doesn't mean I'm not okay to exist with you.
Yeah.
But I'm giving you the full extension of my existence so we can actually coexist. That's it.
Okay.
So it's like, I wish I was able, and maybe, I guess to people because I'm like nuanced or detail specific, then that's like, oh, that's genius. And I'm like, I don't know. I mean, thank you. But like,
Yeah. Every line is like a shooting star. Not to sound like Katy Perry or something, but like every line is a shooting star. It is God's grace, in existing God's grace, that you are being recorded, Sharon, because it's like a shooting star. Be like, that was, and now people can just rewind it back and enjoy, listener. Can we? Maybe this is a finishing chapter because I'm aware of like duration and not going too far over time because we're just friends forever now.
Yeah, we can.
I am so excited to have like, if this is an on the record conversation, I'm like high school partners who hired me as a youth speaker, but like, if this is the conversation that we're having now, can we finish with maybe one question to the other each? Build a question and receive an answer of the kinds of questions you wish you could just ask.
Oh.
Like you just said. I got one for you, like, because I'm exactly the same.
Okay.
When I meet people, I want to be like, what's the deepest source of your pain? You know, like I want to understand them. My question would be, let's go with, at the present moment, and obviously to whatever level you feel comfortable sharing, because we also,
I'm a poet, I'll go there.
we also just met, and I'm aware of that. I'm a practical person as well.
Thank you so much.
At the current moment, what narrative do you feel out of control of? Or what narrative do you feel a part of that was never in your control? And what narrative do you feel is in your control that you're rewriting?
Oh, ladies and gentlemen, the artist. Yo, that was the question.
End of podcast. Everybody just
wrap it up right there. Take that question home. Think about it. I am making peace with the restructuring of everything I thought love was. I am making peace with the fact that I have loved clumsy. I have loved unguided. I have loved with no sense of direction. I have loved purely. I have longed. I have attempted to use my hands as clay and build a home for the lovers I chose. But somewhere along the road, my love was a source of healing others while abandoning a fraction of myself. And having to make peace with the fact that I cannot write about love because I'm only really good at loving people and not being loved back. I am comfortable as the giver, never the receiver. So my extension in the way that I exist in the world is the purpose of filling others' cups. And art is the only place that I've ever felt comfortable enough being like, I'm going to fill mine first and I will always make sure you're good. But I have to have this cup full first. And
wow.
Making peace with that is complicated. And something that is so out of my control is I crave balance while also craving the chaos of curiosity. And they do not go together. I want equilibrium. I want balance. I want order. I want routine. But curiosity requires you to be a child barefoot in a playground with no parent supervision. And you have to be willing to jump and not land. You have to be willing to see people that aren't friends. The curiosity requires chaos and frantic searching. It's beautiful, but it's risky business. And that and balance do not go together. Because if you want balance, you must choose stillness and comfortability and things that are predictable. So to appease my humanity is to be curious, to feel within my soul. Actually, the separation is to appease my soul, is to feed my curiosity. To fulfill my humanity is to give it balance so that it can heal and repair from every other moment I've just ran through. And they just don't work together. And I don't know how to make peace with that fully yet. I don't know how to be like, ooh, 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 what is that? And at the same time be like, I actually just want to be able to wake up at a certain time and, eat breakfast and go to a job and come back home. But that's not the thing that my soul feels at ease at. It feels like it's slowly being suffocated and dying. And it's like, must I kill one version of myself to survive as the one that ultimately deserves space? I don't know if I know the answer yet. So I would love to feel like I am not the bandage, but the stitches for the wounds of those that I love. And that somehow can give me the balance and order. But chaos is forever lasting because it's the only potent and evident way that we learn. So I can't get the balance. And I can't stop wanting to find somewhat of an answer. I don't know. I'm Humpty Dumpty right now. I see both sides, and some I visit, and the other times I visit the other side. And maybe that is where the contentment comes. I don't know. I have no idea.
This is just some Killing Me Softly singing my life with her words. I'm just going to be absolutely lazy and say, I agree. I agree. 100%. Yeah. I don't know, but I think there is something about the aromatics of the beauty of life is in that tension. And the tension of will it ever resolve? That tension.
But the tug of war is making my hands bruised.
Yeah.
My feet ache.
Yeah.
And I feel the exhaustion feels like complacency to me at times. Because I define myself by the capacity to keep moving.
Yes.
And the capacity to keep creating. But I cannot. My healing is tied to the creation. And I know that. But there is other spaces in my life, the complex nature of my relationship with my mother and trying to unpack the depth of that. Like mothering your own mother who is attempting to mother you out of her own wounds.
That's a whole Sundance Film Festival.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Curry's heavy over there.
Wow.
Me and pain are friends already because we have no choice. Because being enemies means I sit with it too long. So sometimes you must be friends with the things that you fear to be able to overcome them.
That's why I'm exhausted and smiling.
It's a complex thing. Yeah, but for you,
beautiful. My
question to you, I actually had the moment I met you. And I always wonder, to different levels with people.
Where'd you lose your hair? We just finished on that. It's genetics and trauma, I would say. It's a blend, a subtle socio-psycho
That's not
blend.
my question. He put that on me. You better cut that out.
Hey, Ro, when'd you lose your hair? I would just love if it just landed in that place though. Everyone's like, it really.
That's deep. I wanted to know that.
We saw the face of God by the end of that chat. All right. Sorry, I'm here for it. What you just shared was insane, by the way. I feel like I say it every time, but I'm just going to say it one more time. That was profound. Not the joke I made, the thing before that. But all right. Thank you for answering. What an answer.
Thank you. That's a great question I'm going to probably examine for a while. Beautiful question. I know that art for a lot of artists is about you healing yourself through the art. So what part of you have you avoided to heal through the art, and why is that? It's a big question.
I feel like my therapist wants to stay in the job. I don't know if I'm ready to.
Do you feel like there is a place that you're like, I'm not going there yet? Because it will change the way that I look at the art. You don't have to tell me what it is.
I think no.
We just met.
If I could, this is the chaos grenade of me. Though, if I could think of it, I would share it. I think maybe not. I'm an enigma. I don't know.
Okay, cool.
But I do think if I could articulate it now, it would already be in my art. It would already be there.
Wake it up.
So I don't know. I think maybe it's, and this is a whole other chat that opens up, but maybe it's, I don't know the track title, but it's in the genre of things that I am complicit in and to inherently in my existence and the inconsistency and hypocrisy with which I choose to engage in some causes over others, some matters over others, some moments of empathy over others. I don't know. Maybe it's something around that. Because I do mention a lot about, if you've listened to me freestyle, there's a consistent recurrence of Western engine and all these like kind of, the place that I inhabit in the world and my place in so many big orchestras of suffering. I don't know. I'm not too sure. But I'm trying to balance my own suffering and my own, ability to lighten the suffering of others and trying to look after myself enough to do that whilst also trying to experience all that there is to experience. I don't fully know is probably the answer. I think I'm just reaching, but I don't actually know the answer to that. I think there's so much of me that has healed, and I'm grateful to who I used to be for making the choices that I made to arrive here, even with the mistakes and all the bad choices. I've made bad choices that have led to outcomes that are not ideal, like developing anxiety from post-traumatic stress and things like that. There's things where I'm like, oh, I could have done that different and not had to live with this. But in that, I now talk about that and give very big, substantial moments of hope and, to young lives when I'm talking to them and they go from yeah, but you're a confident rapper. And they're like, oh, actual anxiety as well. Oh, and it's opened up so much room for human, I won't say inspiration, but opened up room for possibility on the narratives that we tell ourselves about ourselves in the lives of younger people that I talk with. And so even the greatest mistakes that I've made from my physiological journey have informed things that I already wouldn't regret. I wouldn't undo them, just to be more regulated in my nervous system. But I can be too optimistic at times. So I don't know, maybe I'm an idealist. Yeah. I do know this though, whether I am an optimist or not, in terms of the healing and what has healed or not, I always think of this quote, and I read it randomly on the internet, so I don't know who said it, but it was the simplest idea of whether you perceive the glass as half full or half empty, it's a hell of a glass. And that's sort of where I'm at, which is everything that's not going right, that I'm aware of and not aware of, I'm just in awe that it gets to happen at all. Yeah, including this conversation. Seriously? Are you kidding me? This is one of the best chats I've had in my whole life. Thank you so much. And thank you. Shout outs to Dylan. Come on now. We got to be real.
Dylan.
Shout outs to the visionary.
Come on. Lined
the
it
connection.
up. Lined it up.
But actually, it's such a cool way to meet someone. And I like that we met in this context and now can become friends.
Yeah.
Because I'm already man, what a cool human to exist in the same temporal geographic context of. Because we actually get to connect.
Absolutely.
And it won't be Jamini, who is from 400 years ago that I never got to meet. It's you now, and we're alive at the same time, which we have in common, by the way, if you're hearing this, with anyone else who's alive around you. Even if you're road raging listening to this, that person who just cut you off, it's kind of cool you're both alive at the same time. I'm just saying. But yeah, this is a very cool intersecting of stories. I'm very, very grateful.
I'm going to say this is an observation. I always love when the question is so big that I know there is no answer to it, but what other things you answer about yourself.
Whoa.
So you just answered within that, why art? Where art goes for you and what you want people to take out of it, what the message is and what's the modem, and the process of not knowing the answer to the bigger question.
You Mr. Miyagi me.
I did.
Wax on, wax off. Peace. Kaiju creative. You already know what it is.
Come
Stay
on
tuned.
now.
Collab exclusive. Sip. What a time.
What a time. You are magic. For so many reasons.
Only by what's in you.
Absolutely.
Only by what's in you recognizing. Yeah. And thank you. I don't even know if it's true, but thank you.
It is absolutely. I feel so much I am a compilation of the people that I choose to energetically open myself up to and that do the same thing for me. So this has been a very open exchange of two spaces that have their own colors and their own frequencies, but they have moments of such synergy and similarity and power and the willingness to exist against all odds. And that is the magic in it. The magic is so real. Yes.
I have one last. I know we're over time. I can feel that we're over time. I don't want to outstay the welcome, but I do want to say I just worked out a way to articulate how you have made me feel in this conversation and why I'm excited for even people listening to it, like to get to perceive, your energy. I heard a quote last year through a philosopher about Seneca, and I think it's misattributed to Seneca. I don't know who actually said it, but it reminds me. The quote is, even when you are backed into a corner, you can jump into the sky.
Oof.
And when you are speaking, any open ear will naturally start to elevate on that vertical axis. And I think that's the power. And it was like that feeling of vertical axis engaged. And I was so excited. And I was like, wow, what a gift to just have a conversation. And I don't even know, shout outs to Dylan Kaiju and all the crew sending out the broadcast. People will be listening to this like, what? And just elevate. Like a little kame is building up and the rocks are starting to shake and lift, It's actually really powerful. And thank you for bringing that gift of flight to people with your language, with your words, with your energy.
Thank you so much.
It's so crazy.
Thank you for being so welcoming and having an energy that is an open door. Because that is so rare. And it's like the depth of our humanity is uncomfortable because sometimes we think it's all dark spaces and we don't have a light. But sometimes it's where you find the most magic. It's the willingness to be within a depth and to be exploration. Like everything that I am is a reflection because you see parts of yourself, whether they're a complete process in your eye or not. Wow. They're there. So this is we're a part of a completion. We're part of each other in this existence. So the affirmation that you're extending outwardly, it is definitely who you are and how you embody and how you exist. And that uplifting is the magic of art. And you're consistently holding people to straighten their spine up and hoping that people find the light,
Yeah.
And it's magic. It's in the beautiful smile you have. It's in the way that you exist. So I'm so grateful for the opportunity to be my full self and to not feel too heavy or too serious in the space. So I'm so this has been the best date I've ever been. This has been incredible. I'm just top tier. And with an artist,
yeah,
a new friend forever. This has been magic. You have been magic.
The best. And also, like, collabs soon come. I'm just saying.
Hello?
Whether it's Life on Earth, whether it's me at one of your shows, whether we put on something, it is going to be a feast.
Oh, yeah. I look forward to... Every single person that's ever met me and met you has said to me, I need y'all both on stage together. I'm like, well, I'm going to meet him. And it's been written by everybody who wants it to happen in the stars. They've sent their own wish up, and this has resulted in the magical, Dylan making it happen, and we're at the table.
So good.
So catch us next time on stage together, making it happen.
Brr, exclusive, sip.
Yeah.
Peace and much love to Kaiju Creative. Thank you for having us. What a cool way to do it. I'm just saying the format works. What two artists do you want to see next? Send in your DMs, share it, tag it, use the questionable structure of social media for good for once, and let's get this cooking.
I just want to say with the OG artist dates, It don't get better than this.
Yeah, we inspired the format. Just remember, like it's never been done before.
It's us.
Definitely us 2024, first time.
With the originals. Hello?
Much love, y'all.
This has been magic.